It's like we started over. It's really weird. And I've been so happy because I have more control over it. And I'm actually participating in making the donuts and selling the donuts again, and not just coming in and checking in on things and collecting money and stuff like that. It's just very refreshing to actually be hands-on again.
Pop culture has become obsessed with entrepreneurship stories from Silicon Valley and big startup. But the backbone of our economy is made of small, local businesses. Every day, millions of small business owners deliver quality products and services, support the local economy, employ their neighbors, and follow their passion. We think their stories are worth telling. I'm Angela Giovanet. Welcome to the Extraordinary Small Business Podcast. Today on the show, a treat for the eyes and the taste buds. How did Leslie Polizzotto transform her career in insurance law into the Doughnut Project? We sat down with Leslie to discuss the journey. This episode is brought to you by WP Engine. New York City's West Village, home to dozens of celebrities like Sarah Jessica Parker, Hugh Jackman, Ben Stiller, and Amy Poehler, has remained a more quiet and quaint respite within an unrelenting Manhattan bustle. Eateries range from informal bakeries and cafes to legendary establishments with powerhouse chefs. This is the backdrop to the story of the Doughnut Project, conceived and launched by business partners Leslie Polizzotto and Troy Neal. It was a chance meeting at a bar that helped these two partners discover their mutual love for the almighty donut, and the rest, as they say, is history. Leslie, a reformed attorney, handles the business end of things, from marketing and sales to strategy, human resources, and social media. Neal, the self-proclaimed director of chaos, tends to spend more of his time on the creative end of the business. Though the Doughnut Project is a relatively young company, opened just about 5 years ago, this company has been able to quickly establish themselves in a crowded market, collecting awards for their product, notoriety in the media, and collaborations with much larger companies. How did a donut masquerading as a bagel put the Doughnut Project on the proverbial map? We sat down with Leslie to hear all about it.
Hi, my name is Leslie Polizzotto. I am the co-founder of the Doughnut Project. We are a gourmet handcrafted donut shop in the West Village of New York City. And we take inspiration from food and cocktails for our flavors. And we kind of found that niche really resonated with foodies and adults who wanted to have treats, but not necessarily sugar bombs. So we like to balance the flavor profiles.
Now, obviously, donuts are not a new product, and there's no shortage of donut companies out there. What made you say, there's something that I can do different? Tell us how you got started.
Well, I was actually a lawyer practicing law and living in California, Los Angeles, and I was going back and forth with my husband to New York on business trips. His clients were here, and I would come and work out of our New York office at my law firm. And when we go out to dinner, we like to sit at the bar, and so you can just talk and have a conversation. And I befriended a guy who was a bartender at Italy, and his name was Troy, and he was super fun and charismatic. And one of the trips we were visiting, and we stopped by to say hi, and we're having a drink and eating. He mentioned he wanted to open a donut shop, and I pulled out my phone and I showed him all these pictures of donuts on my phone, and I said, I love donuts. They make me so happy. Anytime someone brings in a box of donuts to the law firm, I just can't wait to pick out which one I want. And I look at it on my desk for hours, anticipation to eat it. And so he said, well, if you want to help me out, I would love to the help, and I think he thought I could maybe help him legally or financially as an investor. But I told him, I said, look, I'm moving to New York soon, and let's reconnect and, see where things are going. So probably 6 months, 9 months later, my husband and I do move to New York, and we reconnect with Troy. And I said, I want to help you do this donut shop. And it was kind of a really strange move in some people's eyes, but I was really encouraged by my husband who owns his own business, and he thought I'd be really good at being a small business owner. So I decided to take the leap into something I love and enjoy. And I really liked my future business partner and trusted him. And we wrote a business plan and spent a long time doing that and raised friends and family capital. And the whole process took like 3 years before we opened. So it was a long journey.
And what year did you meet him and what year did you open?
I met him probably at the end of 2011 and we opened 2015.
So, as a lawyer, I imagine most lawyers I know are trained to see the risk in everything and to hedge that risk. How did you overcome that tendency as a lawyer and also, build that rapport with someone who you just met so quickly?
Well, I was very naive. I was a foodie and I wanted to get into the food industry somehow. I was like obsessed with food shows and going out to dinner. And I always say I'm a professional luncher. It's my favorite thing to do is to go out to lunch. And, I really wanted to dip my toe into the food industry. And quite frankly, I was just fortunate enough that I had my husband that was supportive and said, hey, give it a shot. I gave up a 6-figure income with being a lawyer to not take a salary for a year. And not everybody's in that position. And so some people may have to work another job where they're trying to get something off the ground. But I was fortunate enough that I could dive into this, writing the business plan, meeting with potential investors. So it kind of became my job to make it happen. And it was fun and I liked it.
So, did you leave your career once the store opened, or did you leave your law career and then start writing the business plan?
I left my law career way before the store opened. I was licensed in California.
Oh, so then you were moving.
Well, I moved to New York and I took the bar and I passed it. And my law firm didn't have quite enough work to bring me on right then. So I kind of was forced into the position to reevaluate what you're doing and find some other things to get involved in, to take some time to, not just be sitting at home by yourself all day. And I was on this path and my law firm actually reached back out to me and said, okay, we have work for you. Cause I had passed the bar and everything. I was legally could practice. And I said, you know what? I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. So it was like a decision that was made for me once I was already down the path. We weren't open, but I had all the confidence that we could make it successful. Like I said, totally naive, probably insane.
Yeah.
New York City has the highest failure rate, especially with food businesses. Neither one of us had run our own business. I had always worked for someone else in an office environment, checking the boxes, and he was a bartender. So it was like we had everything against us, but we didn't realize it and just kind of overcame it.
Not only does New York City have some of the failure rates you're talking about, but it also has some of the highest expenses. Were you nervous about that? Like, were you thinking maybe we should just try this in New Jersey, or it was New York?
It was New York. And like I said, we were both very naive. The rent is super expensive. Labor is super expensive. But we also thought we were going to make $1 million our first year. Like we had written this plan where, we're going to sell this amount of donuts, this amount of is going to be coffee revenue. Like we had planned it all out, but it wasn't feasible or realistic. And we just didn't know it. And,
right.
We didn't seek advice from anybody on hey, does this make sense? We just kind of pulled numbers out of the air, which weren't true or realistic. So that was a challenge.
But it helped you be optimistic enough to get you to open the door.
Correct. And, we both put in money for the starting capital. And then we raised money from friends and family, people who believed in us and, supported us, and some outside people who weren't a friend or family. We had a couple investors that, after they met with us, believed in us and our concept. And I've heard it over and over again. And you've probably talked about this before on your podcast, but people invest in people. So if you present well and you're likable and you have somewhat of a good plan, you're more likely to get someone to invest in you if you had a wonderful plan, but you're not the best with talking with people or explaining your concept or your vision, or it just we are a good sales team, quite frankly.
Yeah. People bet on the jockey, not the horse.
Right. Exactly. 100%. And my business partner is like super charismatic. Everyone immediately loves him. He's more extroverted. I'm more introverted, but we've kind of rubbed off on each other so that we're a little more, well-rounded team. He now appreciates my calendaring and checklists and those types of things. And I appreciate all that I've learned from him in hospitality. You don't know what it is about hospitality until you're actually on the other side. If you always frequent restaurants, but you've never worked in one, you have no idea what hospitality truly is. And so I've learned a lot from him in that respect.
Now, you touched on this earlier, but your donuts are different. They have a different taste. They have a more balanced nature to them. I've seen some of them are savory in nature. Is that a product that evolved, or was that your idea from inception?
It was an idea for inception, and that kind of was our niche, but we took it way farther than what we had anticipated. I like to say we like to push the envelope on what a donut can be. We started out with a core flavor menu that was pretty unique. We had an olive oil black pepper donut, and we had a bacon maple donut and a beet and ricotta donut, and no one had ever seen that before. We started to then branch out more into the alcohol. A lot of alcohol brands would reach out to us and want us to create a donut using their alcohol, and they would promote it, we would promote it, and we just kind of started getting all these brands that wanted to work with us, food brands, alcohol brands. And so we just started doing all these collaborations, or projects, as we like to call them, donut projects. And that's kind of how we built our reputation, was doing collaborations and just coming up with creative donuts.
So that's not something easy for a small business to do, right? Get liquor brands to reach out to them and food brands. How does that happen?
It's so funny. When we were 3 months old, we were invited to participate in a donut festival in Brooklyn. And we took our beet and ricotta donut and we won. We won the competition. And that doesn't sound like a lot, but it came with this cool trophy. It got a lot of kind of foodie press, but also a $3,000 prize. And like, we were underwater. We were 3 months old and we had no money, and we were just realizing how cold December can be in New York City when nobody knows who you are. But this happened in January. And then February of 2016, our lives were changed overnight when we put a donut on our menu called the Everything Donut. It changed our life. That. Well, it literally broke the internet. If you Google the Everything Donut, the first 15 pages of Google, all of the articles are about that donut. I can't say it enough. It completely changed our life.
How was it discovered? I mean, sure, you put it on your Instagram, but someone notable people had to pick it up. Did you put a press release out? How did people find out about the Everything Donut?
All through Instagram. And it's funny because when we started, it was right that when Instagram and the food culture were colliding, and, food mashups were becoming a big thing. And, influencers were starting to pop up in regards to food. And we had become really close friends with Mike Chow, who is the father of Food Baby NY, which is now a huge brand. And he came and got the Everything Donut and took it home and took a picture of it with his son's face. He only had one child at the time, with his son's face in the middle of the donut, and posted it on his Instagram feed. And it's amazing how you didn't know this at the time, but traditional forms of media were actually watching what was happening on social media, because there's an online lifestyle food website called Gothamist that had saw that post and called us at the shop. And they were like, we just saw this post on Food Baby's account about the Everything Donut. Can you tell us a little bit about it? And so we did a 5-minute interview. And then within an hour, Nell Casey, the food editor at the time, had posted a story about it on their website. And we didn't think anything about it. The next day, our phone started ringing off the hook. It was ABC News, NBC News, the Wall Street Journal, newspapers in London. Everybody in the world found out about the donut from that one post on Instagram that got a food website to write about it.
So did all of that press, tell me how all of that press became dollars? Did it equate? Did it grow the business, or was it just now I've noticed you guys have an amazing Instagram following. You're at over 100,000 followers on Instagram or something.
We have 130,000.
Right. Now, at this point in time, when the Everything Donut comes out, where are you at on Instagram?
We're probably like around 4,000, probably.
4,000.
Yeah.
Okay. And you've been in business like a year?
No, we had been in business for almost 5 months, 4 months.
Oh, wow. Okay. And the original Food Baby, he was already big on Instagram
He
or
was
sort
pretty
of?
big, probably not even 100,000 at that time. He was probably like 60,000 or something like that. But it was just unbelievable that people were watching what was happening on Instagram and, more traditional forms of media like a professional website or a news channel or a daytime TV show like Kelly and Michael and The Chew, like Rachel Ray, like the donut was on every single show. It was unbelievable. And it equated to dollars because people all of a sudden knew who we were. We were selling out of donuts by 9 o'clock in the morning. We couldn't make them quick enough. It was like 4 of us there not knowing how to even make enough donuts. It was crazy. So yeah, it put us on the map for sure. And then the whole collaboration started when Angry Orchard reached out to us for National Donut Day, which is a real holiday in June.
Yep.
It's created by the Red Cross that started by welcoming immigrants through Ellis Island. The first thing they got was a donut and a blanket. So it's a real holiday. And they reached out to us to do a collaboration with them using their apple cider on National Donut Day. And we did. And they had the huge PR press team behind them. And they did a press release and they had all the, sending donuts to influencers and they had all the money to do that. And so we kind of just rode the coattails of all these brands that had PR teams because I was doing everything. I'm not a PR person, but I had to do everything on our side.
But you had a tasty product that people were excited and it was visually compelling and you were willing to work with them.
Right.
So in your mind, the contest led to the collaboration with Food Baby, led to the major media, led to that first collaboration. One doesn't happen without the other.
Right. I mean, I think they all kind of, a lot of foodies that love donuts were at that competition in Brooklyn that January 23rd when we won. And we had people coming into our shop. We met you at the competition, so it kind of grew our business then. And then I do think Mike Chow was probably at that event. I can't remember 100%, but I just was naive. I just started inviting influencers. Hey, if you want to come try our donuts, I'd love to give them to you. And people would come and take our donuts and take pictures of them and post them. And we just started growing our following very organically and innocently. And next thing you know, we have 130,000 followers.
Do you think that if you had chosen a basic chocolate donut to bring to that contest, would you have won? Or it was because you not only thought out of the box, but it was delicious that really made people stand up and see something different?
No, we would have never won. There was actually a donut shop that could be considered a competitor of ours who has been around a lot longer than us that did bring a chocolate donut to that. And they did not win. We won. I think people, the dough is wonderful. It's super fresh and light and airy and not greasy. And the flavor profiles, a beet glaze with ricotta whip inside. So it's not just like cheese stuffed in. We whip it to almost like a whipped cream. And it's just the most
like a cannoli.
Elegant. Yeah, it's so elegant and just delicious. And we won. I mean, because it tasted so good. So you can have all the hype in the world, all the flashy Instagram things, but if your product's not good, you're never going to make it. You have to back it up with a good product. And we've always done that.
Yep. You can get them in the door, but then you have to deliver.
Correct. And we're like, it's not only just the donut. When you come in, we want it to be an experience. We're a brand. We sell merchandise with our logo and cool pop culture references on t-shirts. You're greeted when you come in. We engage in conversation. It's all about hospitality. It's not like, here's your donut, get out of the way. It's very much an experience that you remember. We want people to leave with a smile on their face and tell everyone about the Doughnut Project.
So who makes the donuts? Who decides the recipes? How did that happen?
Well, originally, my business partner was making donuts in his apartment, testing out recipes. And he says they weren't very good. I liked them when he made me donuts. And when I was deciding whether I wanted to do this with him, I loved them. But the recipe has definitely evolved. My partner, Troy, is definitely the master of the donut recipe. When we first started, it was him making the dough. I was working the front of the house, and we had one person glazing donuts. We grew our shop to 2 locations and 20 plus employees before the pandemic. Ironically, we're back to the 1 location and me, my business partner, and 1 employee again. And I love it.
And we should say we're speaking right now in the middle of the pandemic. So
Correct.
has that all changed during the pandemic?
Yes, we had 2 locations. We were making everything in our West Village location, a van, driving them up 2 or 3 times a day. We had employees up there.
Where was the second location?
Up near Central Park, Carnegie Hall area. And I was miserable. I was not happy. It was so weird because our plan was always to grow and expand to more locations. And when we did that, it was so stressful and so just not fun. It became not fun.
What made it not fun?
Because you have to depend on lots of people to A, make the donut, B, care about what they're doing, show up, not call out. No one's going to care as much as you do. And when you have 20 people that don't care as much as you do, and you're a type A personality like me, it almost ruins you. You stress. All you do is, worry about things. And right before the pandemic, I swear I was happy our business was growing, but it was growing in a way that it was just too stressful. I felt like we weren't managing it appropriately. I felt like people were kind of, I don't know. I just felt like it kind of got away from us a little bit. Not the product, but just the management of the business. And when the pandemic hit, we took a look around and said, we can't have all these people. Obviously, we're going to have to lay everybody off. We kept our 1 pastry chef, Maddie Chunka, who is a professional pastry chef and is responsible for making our donuts beautiful. And she's trained. It's us 3, and we hustle 5 days a week, and we're doing it. And it's like we started over. It's really weird. And I've been so happy because I have more control over it. And I'm actually participating in making the donuts and selling the donuts again, and not just coming in and checking in on things and collecting money and stuff like that. It's just very refreshing to actually be hands-on again.
Do you think that this will change your future in terms of your interest in growing in the long term? Or do you think it's just a moment to pause and think about the way you want to grow?
It's definitely a moment to pause and think about the way we want to grow. We actually had a huge growth plan. We've been working with consultants to expand to other states. We license our brand. We actually have a licensee location in Saudi Arabia as we speak.
Oh, wow.
And we had been very close, and we're working with another licensee in another international scenario, and they're still interested. So we're still going to grow and grow domestically with owned stores or licensed stores when it makes sense. But as far as the business in New York is a very, very, very small place. You think it's big, but Manhattan is very tiny. And we will definitely take production off the island when our lease is up in 5 years. There's no reason to pay
West Village rent
$10,000 a month to make donuts. You can pay $2,000 if you just go across the water. So we're going to definitely make changes in the future, but also we've learned a lot about how many people it actually takes to make a certain amount of donuts. We're making the same amount of money with 3 people doing it that we were making with 15 people doing it.
You're able to perfect that formula.
Correct. So we've modified production. We actually are closed 2 days a week now. We used to be open 7 days a week. Now we close Mondays and Tuesdays. And Wednesday is a good day. Thursday's a great day. But Friday through Sunday is spectacular. And we have a line out the door, and we make all our money in 3 days. And it's like just changing the model of how you're operating.
That whole 80-20 rule. Sure.
1000%. Instead of being open 7 days a week, paying people to do stuff that you're not really, you're not even breaking even on those days. So why be open on those days and then hustle on the other days? So we're reorganizing our business model.
Yep.
And then the growth will come once the world comes out of this pandemic.
Sure. So these constraints have really challenged you to grow and really think through every single part of your process to be as optimized as possible.
Definitely. Timing, hours of operation, our delivery platform. We use Postmates exclusively because we had other ones and they just were horrible. So a third of our business is through a third party delivery system through Postmates. A third of our business is on online pre-orders. People order them and so they can just pick them up when they drive up. The other third is the walk-in takeout traffic that was the majority of our business before the pandemic.
Yeah.
So it's just interesting how the business is changing due to the world right now.
Every small business needs a website. That's not new information. But these days, there are so many easy software options for creating your own website. My personal favorite happens to be WordPress. It's been around since 2003 and it's open source, which means it's free. There's no monthly fee for it. And there are literally thousands, probably millions of people who can work in and develop on WordPress. Today, 36% of the entire internet is built on WordPress. Everyone, from your neighborhood coffee shop and local restaurant to Rolling Stone, the New York Post, to Vogue, and even Disney are on WordPress. I've hosted my WordPress websites with a number of different companies over the years, and I've been with WP Engine for a while now. Here are the top 3 reasons I love WP Engine. First and foremost, my site just works because at WP Engine, they are 100% dedicated to WordPress websites. That means their servers are configured to optimize performance for WordPress. It just removes so much hassle out of the equation. Number 2, they know WordPress. I used to get so frustrated when something would break on my website. Maybe it was a plugin or a WordPress update, and I'd contact my web host tech support and they'd say, sorry, we don't support WordPress. WP Engine makes it simple to create, update, and manage any WordPress website. And number 3, my personal fave is their 24-hour chat tech support. I have used it countless times. You aren't talking to a bot, you're talking to a person, and they provide actual, real help when you need it over chat. So, if you have a WordPress website, or if you're thinking about moving to one, I highly recommend starting with WP Engine. Listeners of Extraordinary Small Business can get a special offer. Get 10% off any of their hosting plans now. Just head to extraordinarysmallbusiness.com/WP Engine and get 10% off hosting from the masters of WordPress hosting at WP Engine. That's extraordinarysmallbusiness.com/WP Engine. Now, we touched on this a little bit about being type A and trying to delegate things. And what do you think you've learned as a result of that second Midtown location that you will be able to take with you the next time you go to grow? How do you take what you have as a culture of the Doughnut Project and delegate that to your team?
Well, I mean, it's so funny because we always have tried to, in 2019, my business partner and I said, we're going to work on the business, not in the business. So I was no longer working behind the counter. He was no longer making donuts in the kitchen. And, we thought that's what we needed to do in order to focus on growing. To a degree, I think that's true, but I feel like I removed myself too far from the day to day. And I feel like that the workers, especially at the second location, they needed to be managed more. And we've tried to hire a store manager. They never work out. It's crazy. Like it's hard to find good people. It really is, especially in the food industry. It's not like you're a waiter in some 5-star restaurant where you're going to make $1,000 in tips a week.
Well, that's what's always fascinated me about like Starbucks, because you go into a Starbucks and they're always happy. And you're like, is it the caffeine? I'm not sure. Is it the caffeine? Is it the benefits package? But I'm always fascinated because yes, you're right. It's a part-time job. You're not necessarily married to that career path, But how do you take that core corporate culture and distill it into people to help them believe what you believe?
I mean, it starts with myself and my business partner, Troy. I mean, our concept, we like to have fun. It's all about, pop culture and food and cocktails and having fun and seeing us and how much we love what we do. We want to inspire our employees that this is a fun place to work. You could be working at Party City and it would suck. You're at the Doughnut Project where food tours come in and people from all over the world visit our shop. We film TV shows in there. We film videos about us. You can maybe even be on TV. Like, we have a cool place to work. Come work for us. And, we've gotten some good people. But then you get the people who call out all the time and that just throws a monkey wrench in everything, because it's not like we're not Starbucks where we have, thousands of employees on call that if somebody calls out, somebody can step in. We had to keep it as tight a ship as possible. I mean, New York, the minimum wage is now $15 an hour. So I know that's not a lot of money, but it's a lot of money when you're paying more than that, because we do pay more than that to 20 people a week. My payroll, is running like $40,000 a month.
Right. And that's a lot of donuts.
It's a lot of donuts. Especially when you got rent and lights and ingredients and paper
insurance
products
and God knows what
insurance.
else. Yep.
And yeah, it's so hard. It's so hard to make money. But we're fine tuning things. I mean, this pandemic really was like the restart button on our business. And I feel like we are going to come out a brand on the other side, A, that survived it, and B, is stronger and smarter.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned that you did shut down one location. Were you thinking about shutting it down prior to the pandemic already?
Nope. And we probably wouldn't. And we would have just kept dealing with it.
It would have been the dead
stressing
weight.
out.
Mm-hmm.
It was starting to do really well. And actually it was making more money than our original location.
Okay.
But the clientele was completely different. It was office workers picking up donuts for offices in Midtown and tourists.
Mm-hmm.
Not destination tourists that follow us on Instagram and came in from Scotland and they come to our shop. It was just normal people
They
walking around.
happened to be near Carnegie Hall.
Yeah.
Yep.
And said, oh, what's this? Let's just get a donut. So that was our main clientele. Okay. Nobody's coming to New York now to visit. There's no tourists. And the offices are closed here and there's no idea when they're going to open. I mean, a lot of companies are considering not having their employees come back.
I know, at all.
Very long time.
I know.
So you take your main market out of the shop and it's like, we can't have this place. Like it's done. It's over.
But you bring up a really interesting juxtaposition there, because I don't know, had you not had those two locations, you might not have been able to see how different the West Village consumer was from your Midtown consumer. And now you have that information. So as you move forward, you can kind of look for places that are similar, that attract those similar West Village consumers. Is that something that you're focusing on?
Well, the Uptown location had thousands of people walking by it every day. So you would get, what's this? Let's go in here. It's cool. Looks cool inside.
Cast a wide net. Sure.
Yeah. On our street in the West Village, nobody walks down it unless they're coming to us. We're like on a quiet little street.
Sure.
They either live there or they're coming to see us. So we're a destination, and we're a destination because of our social media following, because we've been on TV shows in Japan and France. And we have people come in, they're like, we saw you on TV in France. I mean, it's unbelievable. The press we got, which didn't pay for any of it. It was all came to us.
Yeah.
Has literally built us a global brand. Our brand is globally known. China, Japan, everywhere.
Let's talk a little bit more about that, because so many small businesses aspire to what you have accomplished with your Instagram, and you have attributed so much of your success to it. Tell me about how you approach social media.
When I was telling you when we first started, I would just invite influencers. This was a long time ago when influencers were just starting out. They didn't get paid. They just wanted product. And that whole market has changed. It's obviously a completely different thing.
Now they all have agents.
Right. Now there's agents and they want to get paid. And I mean,
entire
we still
cottage
have,
industry.
Yeah. It's a new career path. We're not paying you. I refuse. I'm like, I'm not paying anybody.
Mm-hmm.
So I just have to put out good content. And I take very good pride in the pictures I take. It's all on my iPhone. The consistency I do. I just think our pictures, we have a large enough audience that we continue to grow. I'm growing 1,000 followers, almost 1,000 followers a week. It used to take me a month to get 1,000 followers. And I know the pandemic, everybody's at home looking on their phone, and that probably has a lot to do with it. But I've capitalized off of that. And I've consistently posted stories and posts. I tag a lot of food.
Use a lot of hashtags.
Use a lot of hashtags. And it's just good content.
Are you or were you tagging influencers or media companies, especially early on, in order to get their attention?
Yes. Yes, 100%. And, Food Network, they knew who we were because of our Instagram. Like, that's how we were known. Now, before the pandemic, Instagram has completely changed. Not only is the influencer market completely different, where people get paid to promote your product, Instagram has algorithms where, although I had 110,000 followers, like it seemed like just yesterday, not all 110,000 followers saw my post when I posted it. Probably 5% of it saw it. So, Instagram did everything they could to capitalize and make you pay and do ads and stuff like that. And quite frankly, I was kind of struggling with that before the pandemic. I was like, I guess we need to start boosting posts and doing that, because we weren't growing as quick as I wanted to. I don't know if they've changed the algorithms or if it's just the pandemic, but like I mentioned, I am growing my followers very significantly ever since the pandemic happened.
Do you find more success in what you put out, or are you also engaging with people on social media platforms? Are you commenting to other people, liking other people's posts?
We definitely, when we first started, I didn't like anybody's stuff, like never. And I was like, oh, I guess I should probably, comment on their comment to us. So I respond to most every single comment. I at least like their comment, or I respond to their comment. And a lot of people actually ask, good questions like, oh, are you guys open on this day? Or will you have this donut on this day? Like it's a way to communicate with our people that actually come to our shop. So it's just kind of a useful tool to communicate. Every weekend, we do a weekend special. Even now, we do a donut for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday that's only available on those 3 days.
That's really smart.
And it totally drives business. Everybody wants to have it, and they come and get it. That's another thing that we kind of started, and it's difficult because the more flavors you have, the more complicated it is, and the different types of doughs and just coordinating everything. It's just, it's more challenging the more new stuff you have all the time, but it's worth it to us because it's what we're known for, and people will come every weekend to get what we're doing.
Limited quantity invites a sense of urgency. So even if someone was on the fence about whether or not they wanted a donut, all of a sudden they have to contend in their brain with, I may never get to try that flavor if I don't go this weekend.
Exactly. And we've actually tried to, in the pandemic, we've tried to touch on a lot of nostalgic like flavors and kind of steered away from more of our challenging flavors. We've done some crazy stuff. We've done, a restaurant series where we do donuts inspired by dishes from restaurants. We've done a cocktail series. We partner with restaurants all the time and create special donuts inspired by a dish they do. We've done some crazy stuff, but we've kind of taken it back to basics, but also tried to put in a little bit of fun and nostalgia, cookies and cream, or, like something a little more simple that we wouldn't have done before, but people just love it and want it. Like we're going to do something with like banana pudding this weekend. And it's just going to hit everybody's, oh, my grandma's banana pudding. Oh, I got to have that kind of thing. So that's another, we want to eat it too. So that's why we're doing it. But it just really strikes a chord with a lot of our customers.
Let's talk more about your co-founder relationship. How has that helped being a small business owner, having someone to bounce things off of and go through this, time with, the ups and the downs? Like you said, you're very much a yin and yang combination. And I actually had a business partner for 8 years. She is my sister. And we always said that the ups if one of us was having a really down day, it really helped us level out. And I think there's a lot to be said for having a co-founder. Talk about that.
I could not speak more highly of my co-founder, Troy Neal, than anybody. And I'm so fortunate because it could have gone so bad. I was like this blonde attorney from LA, and he was like this hipster dude from New York, bartender with tattoos all over him. But he's the nicest guy in the world. We get along great. We have an absolute blast. He brought more of the fun, hospitality, like kind of freewheeling, easygoing side of things. And I brought the structure, planning, staying focused, making sure our bills get paid. And because I handle everything, I handle all the bills, all the payroll, I handle everything. And I always say, if we were both like him, we would have failed. If we were both like me, we would have failed. I always recommend to people when they ask me advice on, partners or co-founders, I say, find someone who has skills that you do not, because you need to have a more well-rounded team and you can both bring something to the table. Neither one of us had owned our own business, but I did come from a corporate background. So I knew, you have payroll. Oh, you have to pay taxes. Oh, you have to do correspondence to people who communicate to you. And, I need to follow up these people that want to partner with structure. And he brought the fun to the brand. And, we've kind of rubbed off on each other. Like I mentioned, he seems to embrace the structure a little bit more, and I'm learning to have a lot more fun. So, I could not imagine doing this by myself. I really think it makes sense. I'm usually the one that's having the anxiety and the stress, and he's the voice of reason and kind of fun and makes me laugh. But once in a while, he will get the stressed out and everything. And I become, like the make light and make things better or offer suggestions to make him feel better. But you definitely have to have someone to bounce your stresses and your anxieties and your worries off of.
I, like you, came from a corporate background. So one thing that really struck me going out on my own was when you're in a big corporation, you do your performance reviews or whatever, and they tell you your strengths of A, B, C, and D, and they tell you your weaknesses of E, F, G. And then they ask you to make E, F, and G better. Instead of focusing on your strengths, they ask you to work on your weaknesses. And I think one big pivot when you become a small owner is you say, screw the weaknesses. I'm going to focus on my strength, and I'm going to find someone who has that weakness of mine and it is their strength. And like you said, just trying to find that naturally, and then it becomes you're a stronger duo.
Definitely 100%. But it's funny how you mentioned the performance review. I'm deep in a corporate culture my whole life, and I thrive on it. I love the performance reviews, and I love being the best, and I loved getting all the, the checks and, you only need to improve on this, and then improving on that because I'm that kind of crazy person.
Sure.
And when you're owning your own business, there's nobody telling you, hey, you're doing so good. Oh, you get a check mark. Oh, you get your raise.
These are the rules in which we are grading you on.
Yes, here are the rules. Here's how you've done. Here's your promotion. Nothing. No, it's, you got to figure it out. I mean, every day I would go in and be like, okay, do this research, write this brief, go to this court appearance, do this, do that. And I would do it perfectly. But you go into the donut shop, the internet's broke, or, the Dairyland didn't bring ricotta for the beet and ricotta donut. Now we got to go find it. Like every day there's some new challenge that you have to figure out. There's no rules. You just have to, every day, you have to just make it through the day.
Right. And you don't get to put that accomplishment on your list for your performance review either. You just sort of pat yourself on the back, go home and say, well, at least we didn't fail today.
I know. It's so funny when I've been helping more with like actually making the donuts, like frying and flipping the donuts. And I glaze donuts every day now. And I'm always like, oh, look how beautiful this donut is. It's the most beautiful donut. Don't I get a gold star? It's like, because I used to thrive on recognition and, someone being acknowledging your hard work. No one acknowledges anything you do when you own your own business.
Right. Nope.
It is just get it done.
Unless you do something wrong, then they acknowledge it.
Yeah, really. So yeah, that was a big change for me. Getting that corporate structure that's completely that's not the case in a small business. You have to do it all.
So to that end, what is the most gratifying thing about being a small business owner for you?
For me, it's making people happy. I used to do insurance coverage litigation, which sounds horrible, but it wasn't. It was actually a great learning experience. I represented the insurance company when they would deny a claim and the policyholder would sue the insurance company to get coverage. So I literally represented the devil, like AIG and like all these companies that you hear their names and you're like, ugh, insurance company. Ugh.
Right.
So it was a very negative environment. You dealt with crappy plaintiffs' attorneys who were mean and confrontational. So it was always like this stress and negativity, and you have to be perfect in when you're a lawyer. You can't make mistakes. You'll get sued. You'll lose your license. So it's a lot of pressure. Donuts make people happy. They're fun. No one's been mad at a donut. When you bring donuts to an office meeting, I've been on the other side. They make people happy. You observe everyone's mood changes and everybody starts laughing and talking and they kind of congregate around the donuts and they start talking about them, what they look like, and which one are you going to have? And it's a positive, happy thing. So that's what I enjoy most about my business that I particularly chose, donuts, that it's a positive, happy thing. It's not something that happens when someone's depressed or scared or anything. It's a positive thing. And I like being a positive anything to anyone. I love our customers who come in and say, "Oh, you have the best donuts. We love your donuts." You feel good when you get that little positive reinforcement, which I thrive on. Every little second, like any piece of that I get from a customer, it makes it all worth it. Even if you've had a crappy day, if someone says something good about your donuts, you just feel like, okay, it's all worth it.
What are your aspirations, both, for your business and for the future? And where do you look for those aspirations? Are there people or businesses that you look up to?
Yeah, I love the foodie world. We partner with restaurants and work with very prominent chefs. We've worked with like James Beard award-winning chefs and Michelin star restaurants to do collaborations with, and that I just think that's the greatest thing in the world. That to me is wonderful. I love being a part of the food industry, and I love food television. I love doing television. I really admire people like Christina Tosi or, people who have a food business and then they turn it into something more fun too, like podcasts or TV shows or something. I like that. We've been very close to a TV show twice. Wow. about our business, and something always like happens, like a pandemic, and it just like changes everything. And we have a lot of fun, and I think people would like to see the backside of what we're like, who we are and what we're doing. I would like to see that through. I would like our business to expand internationally as planned and is going to happen, hopefully, and continue to happen. And I would love to have more stores in other states, not every state, just maybe 2 or 3 states that make sense. We have our eyes on several places that we think we could crush it. Here in New York, we are one of a million choices for that treat, for that. And it's not just donuts. There's cookie dough, there's waffles, there's ice cream, there's everything in the world. And we would love to go to like a town where there's just not that much there, really successful brands, and be that successful brand and just kill it and be the one. So being a big fish in a small pond is something we're looking to do.
I could talk to you for hours. There's so many more questions, but I will finish with these last 2 questions. I would not be standing here today if not for blank.
My husband, 1000%. When he met me, I had never even been to college. I started college much later in life. I went to college. I transferred to UCLA. I graduated in 2004. I then said I wanted to go to law school. He supported that. I went to law school. I became an attorney. Then I said, I might want to do this donut thing. And he's always, always supported anything I've wanted to do. And that's very rare, I know. But he's the best guy in the world. And I'm so lucky to have him to support anything I want to, like, he encourages me to do these crazy things. Who goes to law school at 38 years old? Not a lot of people.
Yeah, that type of support is amazing to have, and it really does help you become successful.
I always had it in me, but I was in a prior situation just never allowed to act on my ambitions and my drive. And when you have someone that supports that and says, you can do it, you can do anything, your whole life changes. And
You
so
can.
definitely he's number one on my list of people to thank for where I am today.
And what's one piece of advice you would give your 18-year-old self?
You will become something more than what you are right now. I mean, when I was 18, all I cared about was partying and didn't even want to go to college. I would tell myself, wish I had done it sooner rather than later. It took me a long time. I took an unusual path. But I guess I would tell myself that straighten up because you have a lot to accomplish.
That's awesome. Leslie, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciated learning about the Doughnut Project. And where can everybody find you on Instagram?
We are the Doughnut Project, and Doughnut is spelled out. It's not the short version. It's Doughnut, and there's the pesky the on the front. And we are located on 10 Morton Street in the West Village. It's in between Bleecker and 7th Avenue. We have a very, very cool shop. It's got street art on the walls, chandeliers for super cool and fun. And look at our website, thedoughnutproject.com. And definitely follow us on Instagram and you can see all the fun stuff we're doing.
Yes, it will make you hungry for sure.
Yes, definitely.
Thank you, Leslie.
Thank you so much.
And one more time, thank you and shout out to WP Engine. Check them out and get your special offer today at extraordinarysmallbusiness.com/WP Engine. Thanks for listening. For more information about our show and our company, head to extraordinarysmallbusiness.com. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook or Instagram. We would be so grateful if you could help us reach more listeners. All you have to do is go to iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts and rate, review, and subscribe. It would mean the world to us. Ratings, reviews, and subscribes are how iTunes decides which podcasts are worth sharing. Help us continue to bring these stories of extraordinary small business owners to the world. By rating, reviewing, and subscribing, you're helping our small business. It's free and it takes just a minute. Thanks.